The world is on the brink. Conflicts are escalating around the world. Metal prices are skyrocketing. But I actually think this is still a good time to be buying Bitcoin, buying Ethereum, accumulating digital currency because the world is not getting less digital, it is getting more digital. I'm Taylor, and you're tuned into the Crypto Market Report. We tune in every morning with our trading group. If you want to be a part of that, there's a link in the description. We have experienced, profitable traders trading every single weekday in our trading group. And I provide the news. I provide a little bit of a brief that also goes out on YouTube. So if you enjoy it, make sure you smash the like button, consider subscribing if that's your thing. Let's jump into the morning sentiment. Geopolitical turmoil into the end of the year. That's not what we wanted to see, but it's what we're getting. Bitcoin fear and greed at 23, so we remain in extreme fear. Federal funds rate going down. The probability of that is now 12% likely. I don't have the live one pulled up, but that's probably right around where it is right now. 12% likely that we get a 25 basis point cut in January. It's very unlikely. Okay, got a little logistical note here. As we end off the year, markets are going to be closed for the final day. So take note of this. US stock market are open. Some of you might be surprised by this. Open from 9:30 to 4 p.m. New York time for New Year's Eve. Okay, so that is tomorrow. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. The markets are open. The stock markets are open, so you need to be aware of that. However, they'll be closed all day for New Year's Day, Thursday, January 1st. Okay, so both of those things you need to be an understanding of. There will be serious desks trading all assets from New York tomorrow, New Year's Eve, but they will not be on the 1st. Major focus: FOMC drops at 2 p.m. today. Okay. Big question I'm wondering about: will they cut more than once in 2026? I think that's kind of the big question that most folks are asking. But be staying tuned for that. 2 p.m. We'll put some tweets out about it, kind of summarizing what the market's reacting to if there is a market reaction. Be aware that the FOMC minutes are notoriously a nothing burger. Sometimes they're not, though. Okay. Trump is not worried as China's live fire Taiwan war games enters second day. And I've put specifically the publications that put these because this is all non-financial information. So I'm kind of going out of my lane a little bit to bring this to you all, but this is what I wanted to highlight today. Saudi Arabia issues national security warning as UAE forces asked to leave Yemen. CNBC. Saudi-led coalition hits weapons in Yemen coming from UAE port. Okay, so there are missiles flying around the world. Okay, some of them are hitting ports in Yemen, and some of them are just part of a test. This was the one that's part of a test. China encircles Taiwan, massive military display. And then the search results here for Saudi Arabia. Saudi strike port. Saudi Arabia issues national security warning. So there's all kinds of things going on in the world right now. Sometimes these things resolve completely, and there is no continued turmoil. China and Taiwan, right? There's been tensions there, obviously, a lot of political tensions that involve the United States. But there's also been a lot of peace, right? There hasn't been conflicts between China and Taiwan. There's been a lot of war of words, but there hasn't been actual missiles flying. And today, the headline doesn't say that missiles flew and hit Taiwan, right? But what it does say is that China is at a record level of war preparedness, let's say. Okay. And then in Saudi Arabia, you usually don't expect the UAE in Saudi Arabia to be kind of butting heads and for there actually to be missiles flying and hitting targets. Okay. So that's what we're getting at the end of the year. Fear is coming in at the end of the year. The stock market has been hitting new highs all year, new all-time highs all year for the S&P and for the NASDAQ. And we're finishing off the year with fear. a lot of investors are going to ask, is this the preview to 2026, a United States midterms year? Is there going to be a lot of global positioning and jockeying for leverage to try to influence the midterm elections through international affairs? All these types of things are going to be taken into consideration. I'm here to tell you, you probably don't need to worry about this stuff. In my opinion, these things are more than likely going to resolve themselves because there's too much to lose. So that's the way that I see it. And let's go ahead and continue on with our market sentiment here. Feel free to let me know what you guys think. This is a financial show, so I'm going to get back on track with the finances of it all. However, just wanted to bring to you all's attention that there's a couple of conflicts that are escalating from words to kinetics. So that is something to watch. Doesn't mean it has to escalate more from there. But these are not usually names that we hear associated with actual kinetic warfare. All right, so we'll keep moving. That is different. Metaplanet bought more Bitcoin. So that's good. Truth Social ETFs launched today on the New York Stock Exchange. Kind of interesting. I don't know what the ETFs are for. I would imagine one of them is a Bitcoin ETF, but anyway, that's happening. Fidelity's Bitcoin spot ETF saw the largest single day net inflows among Bitcoin spot ETFs at 5.7 million. So it's a small number, but for Fidelity, this is the largest single day net inflow among Bitcoin ETFs. So that's pretty good, right? You're seeing maybe for BlackRock and for the other ETFs, you're actually seeing net outflows, but for Fidelity and its clients, they are actually going long Bitcoin and adding to their positions. Whether those are hedge funds adding to positions so that they can sell premium, we'll find out. But of course, this is generally good to see inflows into those ETFs into the end of the year, right? All right, looking ahead, we have those minutes today dropping at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. January 5th, ISM PMI drops. That's going to be a very interesting print because that helps with this new leading theory of what is driving Bitcoin's price, which is, according to Raoul Pal and other economists and macro investors, the ISM PMIs is what is now driving and has been driving Bitcoin's price. And so we'll continue to monitor that. January 5th is when that prints. If that comes in bullish, that could potentially be an early signal that Bitcoin and crypto is back on the menu for 2026 in a big way. And there will be a lot of investors that will likely front run that move, right? The anticipating PMIs getting back up above 50. January 7th, JOLTS job openings. So we get some jobs data coming in early in the month of January. January 15th, the MSCI decision on MSTR inclusion comes in. That's, in my opinion, pretty much going to be a very negative, bearish news cycle. So we need to be prepared for that. The off chance that it isn't, and the MSTR remains in the MSCI index, that's going to be quite bearish. So we expect now that for MSTR and for Bitcoin, that the exclusion is what the market is going to be pricing in. So prices, but in theory, in a vacuum, should go to the downside for Bitcoin and MSTR. However, we remember that Bitcoin is not in a vacuum, so it's not that simple. But that date is January 15th. Supreme Court ruling on tariffs. I always try to bring this up because this will be big once the date is known. Date is currently not known. Asia closed mixed. All right. Somehow the Shanghai composite was completely flat. Somebody tell me in the chat, was it flat, or was that for some reason not open today? Or I guess, yeah, it would be today. Sushi Garden said, good morning, Mr. Shrum. Yari said, good morning. Taiwan is a province of China recognized by the U.S. State Department and the UN. Okay. Yeah. Hey, for our purposes, that is not something I need to comment on. Juby said, morning, Shrum. Where can we see where Bitcoin miners are selling or holding? That's a good question. Ask that in the general chat of the Discord, and I would get you an answer to that. Right now, I don't have time to look that up for you. And in fact, I don't know. I would imagine that Arkham is going to have data on that. All right, let's keep moving here. I have this chart that I want to show you all. And before I get into it, we're coming into the end of the year. Bitcoin has had a so-so year. And if you were buying the highs, Bitcoin has had a terrible year for you, right? Crypto has pretty much had a bad year, unless the only thing you bought was Zcash, right? Uh, However, since 2023, crypto and Bitcoin have been doing very well in an uptrending bull market, right? Of which I think we are still in. However, at this point in the cycle, there are many smart, talented analysts that are on one side that say, actually, no, the bull cycle is over for crypto and Bitcoin. It's going to go into a cold, bearish winter. Even people on our team, like Crux, give it a 60% chance that we are headed into a bear winter for Bitcoin and crypto. So I'm not here to tell you I'm certain that we're not going into a bear winter. My bias is that we are going to turn the page on 2025, move into the new year, and things will become more optimistic. The Clarity Act will pass, right? There'll be midterms, there'll be new carrots dangled in front of voting constituencies, of which Bitcoin holders are definitely one. So I think there's a lot of bullish catalysts coming in 2026. However, we have to maintain that there is a chance that we are headed into a crypto winter like we did in 2021 and into 2022 that led to the bear market of 2023. Okay. So that is something we have to keep in mind, that it's always a possibility and we have to risk manage appropriately, meaning we don't have all of our eggs in the market, right? We have to keep some dry powder out of the market on the sidelines to be able to pay our bills, right? But also to buy the dips once we get that confirmation of a bottom and the move higher. Now, we have sometimes, even in the movement into the bear market, we can have good things happen, right? So what I'm about to show you is a good thing, doesn't fully negate that we could still be headed for a crypto winter. Again, my bias is that we are not headed for a crypto winter. And this is one of the data points that keeps me on that side of things. Long-term Bitcoin holder cohort have gone back to neutral for the first time since July. So you can see on this screen, these are the long-term holders supply net position change. And as you can see, for the first time since July, we have actually ticked back into the blue here. And this comes after Bitcoin has seen quite a bit of downside and then sustained compression and consolidation with higher lows, but also lower highs. Okay, so that's classic compression, classic consolidation. So what happens next is what everybody wants to know, right? And as we look at silver, as we look at gold, we kind of get an idea of where maybe Bitcoin and crypto might be headed next. They might be headed not just up, but exponentially up, in a huge swing if we follow after gold and silver. But it's not clear that the same forces that pushed gold and silver and palladium and platinum and other precious metals and copper that pushed those commodity prices higher, those same forces are going to be pushing crypto higher. It's not clear yet. I would say that is my bias, right? As an investor, we try to be early, buy low, sell high. So, I'm trying to sit here and think, how could I make the argument that those forces are going to also be bullish for Bitcoin? But at the end of the day, the market is what is going to speak. And the prices for Bitcoin and crypto are not skyrocketing higher like silver and gold. Therefore, the forces are not exactly congruent, right? All right. There's more that I could say on that, but let's continue with this second bullish chart that I've got. This is from an account called TechDev_52, the key October signal, first in 5 years. I believe this was a death cross or golden cross, whatever this is, some kind of a cross here for some moving averages. And this is one that I haven't been paying attention to a ton, but I couldn't scroll past this chart. This chart really caught my eye, and it's going back to October 2016, October 2020, and now October 2025. Every time that this cross has happened, we have been in a prolonged period of consolidation up to the upside, right? I'm sorry, not a prolonged period of consolidation. We've been in a slow uptrend, right? That then gets explosive once this cross happens, once the cross triggers. So those are two charts that I've been looking at that are bringing me quite a bit of hopium, right? Make no mistake, those are some hopium charts because after all, there is a chance, right? There's some talented analysts like Ben Cowan. There is a chance that it's actually down from here, right? When Bitcoin breaks out of this consolidation that we are in currently, that it will actually be to the downside that we break, and it could go quite a bit lower, right? So there is a chance of that. Show hopium. I love to feel hope, right? Love to see a brighter day for number go up, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be honest with yourself that actually the price could potentially go down for Bitcoin, even as gold, stocks, silver, and a lot of other things are still going higher, right? Okay. So, with that said, I am continuing to accumulate Bitcoin and Ethereum because of the DCA strategy. DCA is dollar cost averaging. It's a way to accumulate an asset without getting too exposed to it in one period of time, right? So that's a really smart way to accumulate an asset that you have high conviction in. I think that I don't think my conviction in Bitcoin and Ethereum have not really changed. In fact, they've probably only strengthened as I've seen the traditional financial system that offer these financial services have to pivot their strategy of ignoring Bitcoin and crypto to changing their strategy to beginning to adopt Bitcoin and crypto, especially Bitcoin and especially Ethereum, right? So those are the assets that I'm accumulating and have accumulated the most. But there's some others that I definitely think are going to do well. And so I continue to accumulate those as well. I told you all yesterday, one of those is BNB. Okay. And today I'll spend a little bit of time kind of showing you guys why I think BNB is actually a pretty good altcoin to be considering accumulating here at the levels that it's at, and I'll show you that now. So if we look at the BNB chart, it's currently at $860 per coin, right? But what I really want to highlight here is the drawdown and the consistency above this period, right? So during in this channel here, where BNB was trading basically in an uptrending channel between $800 essentially and $400, it was kind of trading around in this channel, not really finding exactly where it wanted to be, but testing the highs, testing the lows, right? Throughout that period, a lot of other cryptocurrencies were a lot more sporadic or had kind of a failure to launch. And then you have a period where there's a breakout of this and uptrending line of resistance, and you actually get some terminal velocity here. You get a little bit of a escape out of this that sends prices much, much higher. Now, of course, a lot of folks exited here, selling into strength, and then retail froth came in and bought high as exit liquidity, and now we have come back down. But what you'll notice here is that we have not come down and shattered these previous lows, right? We've tested these previous lows here. Let me get rid of all this, clean it up. I'm looking at this at a very macro level, right? I'm not zoomed in on the 4-hour or the 1-hour chart, something to take note. I'm zooming out even further to the weekly to exemplify this point. And another big reason of why I'm picking up BNB is because I didn't have any of it at all, right? And it's a top 10 coin that has done pretty well. It's held up pretty well, held its value, it's preserved value pretty well. And so I want to have exposure to that while prices are relatively low. Now, am I telling you that Binance coin can't come down to 700 or even 600? No, it absolutely could do that, and that's where I would much rather accumulate BNB. But that's we don't always get what we want. But look how it has held up with these previous highs, right? Binance coin has not come down and tested those highs quite yet. If it was going to, it would be a 13% move and then a 21% move to the downside. Not saying that can't happen, right? But in the time where if we look at let's look at SUI for example, right? SUI's chart just looks so different, and yet a lot of people are very bullish on it. If we look at another coin like, I don't want to pick on anything in specific here, but Uniswap, another one that I've been pretty bullish on, but looks very different from Binance Coin, right? To the extent that that we had this peak here for Uniswap, it came all the way back down. It didn't stop at the previous highs, right? It came all the way back down. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what the fundamentals are that allow Binance Coin to do as well as it does. But at the end of the day, it's an exchange coin that has quite a bit of activity going on the chain. And it is, in my mind, also a good RWA play. They have a lot of tokenization happening in the Binance ecosystem. So that is, pretty robust for me. And I think moving into the institutional cycle, deeper into it, I think that the institutions are going to look for these types of chains that have a lot of connections, a lot of activity, and a lot of development going on. And Binance kind of ticks all of those boxes for me. And it's already gestured at what the future of price might look like, right? It didn't top out and just put in a new high here that would have just kept it within this range. It actually went and had a euphoric phase, one of the only, I would say, semi-euphoric and temporarily euphoric, but euphoric nonetheless phase that a lot of other cryptocurrencies did not experience. So I like the strength. I like the price structure here. The chart looks pretty good, and so I'm accumulating it. Now, this is not the most popular coin for everybody, but I think this is a coin that will make it through and do pretty well in 2026. Now, it's also a defensive play, right? It's a coin that I haven't held until around this year because I haven't believed in it. I haven't thought that it was that great, right? I didn't think that it was going to do all that well. But the reason why I like it now is because it is more of a defensive play. Similar to Bitcoin, Bitcoin has a great proven track record. Binance Coin has been around, right? And as you saw with this brief technical analysis through the bull market from 2023 to the present, you've really seen quite a bit of upside for Binance. And so it's held its value. And in this time of uncertainty of Bitcoin and Ethereum could go down, right? I want to play defensive. I don't want to go further out onto the risk curve, right? And play the plumes and play the Caspas and play like smaller caps at this period of time. I want to put new money, new income that I want to keep in crypto. I want to put that into defensive, up the risk curve plays, right? Less risky, so to speak, plays. So obviously the chief among those would be Bitcoin and Ethereum, but Binance and Solana, I would argue, are kind of the other coins that are much further up the risk curve. So is Plume and Caspa, are they doomed? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying though is that in this phase where prices could go lower for crypto, there's a strong argument for it. But I still want to keep allocating to crypto. I want to find these defensive plays. So spent a lot of time talking about BNB, but I told you all I bought it and I wanted to give you guys some explanation on that. We have a comment here says, also, if you were a large government entity like China or US, you would rather invest billions into Bitcoin or invest that into quantum computing to try to crack Bitcoin. I think the latter, a concern of yours. Okay. Yeah. So all of the smart people that I follow on the subject of quantum and Bitcoin and things like that, they lead me to one conclusion. Their analysis of it is I don't need to worry about it. Right. By the time I need to worry about it, I will know. Right. And so there has been times when I have worried about quantum and Bitcoin and things like that. And I spent a lot of time analyzing it and reading people who know much more about those types of things than I do. And my conclusion is that there is a concern in the future, but that's probably far off in like 2029, 2030 and beyond, right? And there's plenty of time between now and then for blockchains to upgrade their security protocols to be impenetrable by quantum. Okay. There's also a lot of reasons to not be afraid of quantum because for crypto specifically, and I'm sure, if you're a technologist and you're into crypto, you've probably heard this again and again, but by the time someone is putting resources and also is willing to be a nefarious actor and they are looking to crack Bitcoin wallets, there's probably a whole plethora of other encrypted technologies, encrypted assets out there that have been destroyed, right? So there's a big question of if it's going to even matter by then, right? So, low key, there was a what does this really bring me to after I think about all this? It's not to be fearful about Bitcoin, because I think that it's actually an opportunity. People being fearful about quantum and Bitcoin is actually a good thing. It keeps prices lower so that I can accumulate more at lower prices, because eventually the market will realize that that is not a valid concern, and they'll go back risk on for Bitcoin. But another insight that I've had is that Google is going to be a big winner from quantum fear. Google in Bahrain. Let me see if I can find this headline for you all here. This is an interesting headline that I was reading about recently. The country of Bahrain has entered into a agreement with Google to have quantum security services. So quantum security is an opportunity, right? And that's something that we need to be aware of. It's not just a threat. A threat, one person's threat is another person's opportunity. Um, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so the country of Bahrain entering into a agreement with Google for their quantum security services. That's something that's really interesting. Now you can buy Google, ticker is GOOG, and you can actually trade that on 2bit as well. If that's how you wanted to express yourself in this thesis, you could go trade Google and trade the swings on 2bit. You can also just buy it and hold it, as I think Google will do well, and their services and their expanded revenue from quantum security services will likely be accretive to the stock. So cool. All right, I'll leave it there, folks. If you guys have any more questions, join the Discord. There's a link down in the description for you to join the best trading community on this planet. I really do feel that way. And it's not because of the high level quality that Tim and I and our team is able to bring, but it's because of the community, right? It's all of the people that are in the group that bring this peer to peer education and experience, as well as the folks who put it on. But Tim and I, we have a great time with our team. We've learned so much, and we teach so much. And so many people come in at square zero or square one, right? And they have no idea what they're doing, never open trading view. And it's just such an honor, such a pleasure to be able to get people where they need to be. So if that sounds like you, if you've never cracked a chart, but you're interested in trading or investing and taking your financial life seriously, go ahead and click that link in the description and join one of our membership tiers to get started. All right, with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Remember, tomorrow is a full day of trading, even though it's New Year's Eve. Stock market is open, but then the 1st, it will be closed. All right, have a great rest of your day. Adios.